Hello guys, I am Taiba from your own channel Audiovisual Books. This channel is for book lovers. If you can't read, if you don't have time, then listen the book. We have started The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Let's see some new pages. Saturday, October 3, 1942. Dear Kitty, everybody teased me quite a bit yesterday because I lay down on the bed next to Mr. Vondon. At your age, shocking, and other remarks along those lines. Silly, of course. I never want to sleep with Mr. Vondon the way they mean. Yesterday, Mother and I had another run-in and she really kicked up a fuss. She told Daddy all my sins and I started to cry, which made me cry too. And I already had such an awful headache. I finally told Dad I love him more than I do Mother. To which he replied that it was just a passing phase, but I don't think so. I simply can't stand Mother, and I have to force myself and not to snap at her all the time and to stay calm. When I had rather slap her across the face, I don't know why I have taken such a terrible dislike to her. Daddy says that if Mother is not feeling well or has a headache, I should volunteer to help her. But I am not going to because I don't love her and don't enjoy doing it. I can imagine Mother dying someday, but Daddy's death seems inconceivable. Inconceivable. It is very mean of me. But that is how I feel. I hope Mother will never read this and or anything else I have written. I have been allowed to read more grown-up books lately. Eva's Youth by Nico von Sutherland is currently keeping me busy. I don't think there is much of a difference between this or and books for teenage girls. Eva thought that children grew on trees like apples and that the stalk plucked them off the tree when they were ripe and brought them to the mothers. But her girlfriend's cat had kitten. But her girlfriend's cat had kittens and Eva saw them coming out of the cat. So she thought cats laid eggs and hatched them like chickens, and that mothers who wanted a child also went upstairs a few days before their time to lay an egg and brood on it. After the babies arrived, the mothers were pretty weak from all that scatting. At some point, Eva wanted a baby too. She took a wool scarf and spread it on the ground so the eggs would fall into it. And then she squatted down and began to push. She clucked as she waited, but no eggs came out. Finally, after she had been sitting for a long time, something did come, but it was a sausage instead of an egg. Eva was embarrassed. She thought she was sick. Funny, is not it? There are also parts of Eva's youth and that talk about women selling their bodies on the streets and asking loads of money, and I had been mortified in front of a man like that. In addition, it mentions it was menstruation. Oh, I long to get my period. Then I will really be grown up. That is grumbling again and threatening to take away my diary. Oh, horror of horrors. From now on, I'm going to hide it. Anne Frank. Wednesday, October 7, 1942. I imagine that I have grown to Switzerland. Daddy and I sleep in one room, while the boys' study is turned into a sitting room where I can receive visitors. As a surprise, they have brought new furniture for me, including a tea table, a desk, armchairs, and a divan. Everything is simply wonderful. After a few days, Daddy gives me 150 guilders, converted into Swiss money, of course, but I will call them guilders, and Tell me to buy everything. I think I will need for all for myself. Later on, I get a guilder a week, and which I can also use to buy whatever I want. I set off with the bund and bernard and buy three cotton undershirts at the rate 0.50 is equal to 1.503 cotton underpants 0.50 to 1.5. 3 wool undershirts at the rate 0.75 is equal to 2.25. 3 wool underpants 0.75 is equal to 2.25. 2 petticoats at the rate 0.50 is equal to 1. 2 bars smallest size at the rate 0.5 is equal to 1. 5 pajamas at the rate 1 is equal to 5. 1 summer robe at the rate 2.5 is equal to 2.50. 1 winter robe at the rate 3 is equal to 3. 2 bed jackets at the rate 0.75 is equal to 1.50. And cousin Bernard Bernhard Bern and Stefan Elias. The Diary of Young Girl 53. I small one small pillow 1 is equal to 1. One pair of and a list she added in this page of the things she purchased. Plus 2 school dresses summer. Plus 2 school dresses summer. 2 school dresses winter. 2 good dresses summer. 2 good dresses winter. 1 small skirt. 1 good winter skirt. 1 school winter skirt. 1 raincoat. 1 summer coat. 1 winter coat. 2 hats. 2 caps for a total of 10 gram guilders. 2 purses. 1 ice skating outfit. 1 pair of skates. 1 case containing powder skin cream, foundation cream, cleansing cream, suntan lotion, cotton first aid kit, rock lipstick, eyebrow, bath salts, bath powder, soap powder puff, plus 4 sweaters, etc. And some books also. October 9, 1942. Dearest Kitty, today I have nothing but dismal and depressing news to report. Our many Jewish friends and acquaintances are being taken away in droves, and the Gestapo is treating them very roughly and transporting them in cattle cars to Westerbork. The big camp in Brent, to which they are sending all the Jews. Mip told us about something who had managed to escape from there. It must be terrible in Westerbork. The people get almost nothing to eat, much less to drink, as water is available only 1 hour a day. And there is only one toilet and sink for several thousand people. Men and women sleep in the same room, and women and children often have their heads shaved. Escape is almost impossible. Many people look Jewish and they are branded by their shorn heads. If it is that bad in Holland, what must it be like in those fairway? If it is that bad in Holland, what must it be like in those faraway and uncivilized places where the Germans are sending them? We assume that most of them are being murdered. The English radio says that they are being gassed. Perhaps that is the quickest way to die. Perhaps that is the quickest way to die. I feel terrible. Map's account of these horrors are so heartrending, and Mape is also very distraught. The other day, for instance, the Gestapo deposited an elderly, crippled Jewish woman on Mape's doorstep while they set off to find a car. The old woman was terrified of the glaring searchlights and guns firing at the English planes overhead. Yet Mape did not dare let her in. Nobody would. The Germans are generous enough when it comes to punishment. Mape is also very subdued. Her boyfriend is being sent to Germany every time the planes fly over. She is afraid they are going to drop their entire bomb load on bestest head. Jokes like, oh, don't worry, they can't all fall on him, or one mom is all it takes, are hardly appropriate in this situation. But this is not the only one being forced to work in Germany. Trainloads of young men depart daily. Some of them try to sneak off the train when it stops at a small station, but only a few manage to escape unnoticed and find a place to hide. But that is not the end of my lamentations. Have you ever heard the term hostages? That is the latest punishment for saboteurs. It is the most horrible thing you can imagine. Leading citizens, innocent peoples, are taken prisoner to await their execution. If the Gestapo can't find the saboteur, they simply grab 5 hostages and line them up against the wall. You read the announcement of their death in the paper, where they are referred to as fatal accidents. Fine specimens of humanity, those Germans tend to think I am actually one of them. No, that is not true. Hitler took away our nationality long ago, and besides, there are no greater enemies on earth than the Germans and the Jews. Yerzen, Wednesday, October 14, 1942. Dear Kitty, I am terribly busy. Yesterday, I began by translating a chapter from La Belle Nuit Miss and writing down vocabulary words, and then I worked on an awful math problem and translated 3 pages of French grammar besides. Today, French grammar and history. I simply refuse to do that rest math every day. Daddy thinks it is awful too. I am almost better at it than he is. Though in fact neither of us is any good. So we always have to call on Margaret's help. I am also working away at my shorthand, which I enjoy. On the 3 of us, I have made the most progress. I have read The Storm Family. It is quite good, but does not compare to Jupe Her Heol. Anyway, the same words can be found in both books, which makes sense because they are written by the same author. Sissy von Marxveld is a terrific writer. I am definitely going to let my own children read her books too. Moreover, I have read a lot of corner plays. I like the way he writes. For example, Hedwig, the cousin from the Bremen, the governess and the green domino, etc. Mother Margaret and I are once again the best of buddies. It is actually a lot nicer that way. Last night, Margaret and I were laying side by side in my bed. It was incredibly cramped, but that is what made it fun. She asked if she could read my diary once in a while. Parts of it, I said, and asked about hers. She gave me permission to read her diary as well. The conversation turned to the future, and I asked what she wanted to be when she was older. But she would not say, and was quite mysterious about it. I gathered it had something to do with teaching, of course. I am not absolutely sure, but I suspect it is something along those lines. I really should not be so nosy. This morning I will lay on Peter's bed after first having chased him off it. He was furious, but I did not care. He might consider being a little more friendly to me from time to time. After all, I did give him an apple last night. I once asked Margaret if she thought I was ugly. She said that I was cute and had nice eyes. A little vague, don't you think? Well, until next time, and Frank. P.S. This morning, we all took turns on the scale. Margaret now weighs 132 pounds, mother 136, father 155 and 96. Patter 14 G. Mrs. Van Don 117, Mr. Van Don 165. In the 3 months since I have been here, I have gained 19 pounds. A lot. Tuesday, October 20, 1942. Dearest Kitty, my hands still shaking. Though it has been 2 hours since we had the scare, I should explain that 3 or 5 fire extinguishers in the building. The office staffer stupidly forgot to warn us that the carpenter or whatever he has called was coming to fill the extinguishers. As a result, we did not bother to be quiet until I heard the sound of hammering on the landing across from the bookcase. I immediately assumed it was the carpenter and went to warn Bep, who was eating lunch, and that she could not go back downstairs. Father and I stationed ourselves at the door so we could hear when the man had left. After working for about 15 minutes, he laid his hammer and some other tools on our bookcase, or so we thought, and banged on our door. We turned white with fear. Had he heard something after all, and now wanted to check out this mysterious looking bookcase? It seemed so nice, it seemed so, since he kept knocking, pulling, pushing, and jerking on it. I was so scared, I nearly fainted at the thought of this total stranger managing to discover our wonderful hiding place. Just when I thought my days were numbered, we heard Mr. Clement's voice saying, "Open up, it's me." We opened the door at once. What had happened? The hook fastening the bookcase had gotten stuck, which is why no one had been able to warn us about the carpenter. After the man had left, Mr. Clement came to get Bep, but could not open the bookcase. I can't tell you how relieved I was. In my imagination, the man I thought was trying to get inside the secret annex had kept growing and growing until he had become not only a giant but also the cruelest fascist in the world. When fortunately everything worked out all right, at least this time. We had lots of fun on Monday. Maeve and Jen spent the night with us. Margaret and I slept in father and mother's room for the night so the guests could have our beds. The menu was drawn in their honor and the meal was delicious. The festivities were briefly interrupted when father's lamp caused a short circuit and we were suddenly plunged into darkness. What were we to do? We did have fuses, but we did have fuses, but the fuse box was at the rear of the dark warehouse, which made this a particularly unpleasant job at night. Still, the men ventured forth, and 10 minutes later, we were able to put away the candles. I was up early this morning. Jen was already dressed since he had to leave at 8:30. He was upstairs eating breakfast by 8. Maeve was busy getting dressed, and I found her in her undershirt when I came in. She wears the same kind of long underwears I do when she bicycles. Margaret and I threw on our clothes as well and were upstairs earlier than usual. After a pleasant breakfast, Maeve headed downstairs. It was pouring outside, and she was glad she did not have to. She did not have to bicycle to work. Daddy and I made the beds, and afterwards I learned 5 irregular French verbs. Quite industrious, don't you think? Margaret and Peter were reading in our room, with Mosey curled up beside Margaret on the divan. After my irregular French verbs, I joined them and read the woods are singing for all eternity. It is quite a beautiful book, but very unusual. I am almost finished. Next week it is Beb's turn to spend the night. Yours, Anne. Thursday, October 29, 1942. The dearest Kitty, I am very worried. Father is sick. He has covered with spots and has a high temperature. It looks like measles, but just think we can't even call a doctor. Mother is making him perspire in hopes of sweating out the fever. This morning, Maeve told us that the furniture has been removed from the Dawn's apartment on Zuider Amsterland, and we have not told Mrs. Wendy yet. She has been are nerves messing nervous lately, and we don't like hearing her moan and groan again about all the beautiful china and lovely chairs she had to leave behind. We had to abandon most of our nice things too. What is good of grumbling about it now? Father wants me to start reading books by Hebel and other well known German writers. I can read German fairly well by now, except that I usually mumble the words instead of reading them silently to myself, but that will pass. Father has taken the place of Goethe and Schiller down from the big bookcase and is planning to read to me every evening. We have started off with Don Carlos. Encouraged by father's good example, mother pressed her prayer book into my hand. I read a few prayers in German just to be polite. They certainly sound beautiful, but they mean very little to me. Why is she making me act so religious and devout? Tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to light the stove for the first time. The chimney has not been swept in ages, so the room is bound to fill with smoke. Let's hope the thing draws. Yours then. Monday, November 2, 1942. Dear Kitty, Beb stayed with us Friday evening. It was fun, but she did not sleep very well because she had drunk some wine. For the rest, there is nothing special to report. I had an awful headache yesterday and went to bed early. Margaret's being exasperating again. This morning I began sorting out an index card file from the office because it had fallen over and gotten all mixed up. Before long I was going nuts. I asked Margaret and Peter to help, but they were too lazy, so I put it away. I am not crazy enough to do it all by myself. And Frank. P.S. I forgot to mention the important news that I am probably going to get my period soon. I can tell because I keep finding a whitish smear in my panties, and mother predicted it would start soon. I can hardly wait. It is such a momentous event. Too bad I can't use sanitary napkins, but you can't get them anymore. And mama's tampons can be used only by women who have had a baby. Comment added by Anne on January 22, 1944. I would not be able to write that kind of thing anymore. Now that I am rereading my diary after a year and a half, I am surprised at my childish innocence. Deep down, I know I could never be that innocent again, however much I had liked to be. I can understand Chinese, the mood Chinese, the comments about Margaret, mother and father, and if I had written them only yesterday, but I can't imagine Retina on so openly about other matters. It embarrasses me immediately to read the pains Delina with the subjects that I remembered as being nicer than they actually were. My descriptions are so indelicate, but enough of that. I can also understand my homesickness and yearning for Mortuji. The whole time I have been here, I have longed unconsciously and at times consciously for trust, love, and physical affection. This longing may change in intensity, but it is always there. Thursday, November 5, 1942. Dear Kitty, the British have finally scored a few successes in Africa, and Stalingrad has not fallen yet. So the men are happy, and we had coffee and tea this morning. For the rest, nothing special to report this week. I have been reading a lot and doing little work. That is the way things ought to be. That is surely the road to success. Mother and I are getting along better lately, but we are never close. Father is not very open about his feelings, but he is the same sweetheart he has always been. We lit the stove a few days ago, and the entire room is still filled with smoke. I prefer center heating, and I am probably not the only one. Margaret's stinker, there is no other word for it, a constant source of irritation, morning, noon, and night. And Frank, Saturday, November 7, 1942. Dearest Kitty, mother's nerves are very much on edge, and that does not bode well for me. Is it just a coincidence after and that father and mother never scold Margaret and always blame me for everything? Last night, for example, Margaret was reading a book with beautiful illustrations. She got up and put the book aside for later. I was not doing anything, so I picked it up and began looking at the pictures. Margaret came back, saw her book in my hands, knitted her brow, and angrily demanded the book back. I wanted to look through it some more. Margaret got madder by the minute, and mother butted in. Margaret was reading that book. Give it back to her. Father came in and, without even knowing what was going on, saw that Margaret was being wronged and lashed out at me. I had like to see what you had do if Margaret was looking at one of your books. I promptly gave in, put the book down, and according to them, left the room. In a huff, I was neither huffy nor cross, but merely said, "It was not right of father to pass judgment without knowing what the issue was. I would have given the book to Margaret myself, and a lot sooner, if father and mother had not intervened and rushed to take Margaret's part, as if she were suffering some great injustice." Of course, mother took Margaret's side. They always take each other's side. I am so used to it, that I have become completely indifferent to mother's rebukes and Margaret's moodiness. I love them, but only because they are mother and Margaret. I don't give a darn about them as people. As far as I am concerned, they can go jump in a lake. It is different. It is different with father. When I see him being partial to Margaret, approving Margaret's every action, praising her, hugging her, I feel a gnawing itch inside because I'm crazy about him. I model myself after father, and there is no one in the world I love more. He does not realize that he treats Margaret differently than he does me. Margaret just happens to be the smartest, the kindest, the prettiest, and the best. But I have a right to be taken seriously too. I have always been the clown and mischief maker of the family. I have always had to pay double for my sins, once with scoldings and then again with my own sense of despair. I am no longer satisfied with the meaningless affection or the supposedly serious talks. I long for for something from father that he is capable of giving. I am not jealous of Margaret. I never have been. I am not envious of her brains or her beauty. It is just that I had like to feel that father really loves me, not because I am his child, but because I am me. And I cling to father because my contempt of mother is growing daily, and it is only through him that I am able to retain the last ounce of family feeling I have left. He does not understand that I sometimes need to vent my feelings for mother. He does not want to talk about it, and he avoids any discussion involving mother's failing, and yet mother with all her shortcomings is tougher for me to deal with. I don't know how I should act. I can't very well confront her with her carelessness, her sarcasm, and her hard-heartedness, yet I can't continue to take the blame for everything. I'm opposite of mother. So of course we clash. I don't mean to judge her. I don't have that right. I am simply looking at her as a mother. She is not a mother to me. I have to mother myself. I have cut myself adrift from them. I am charting my own course, and we will see where it leads me. I have no choice because I am picture what a mother and a wife should be, and can't seem to find anything of the sort in the woman I am supposed to call mother. I tell myself time and again, overlook mother's bad example. I want to see her good points and to look inside myself for what is lacking in her, but it does not work. And the worst part is that father and mother don't realize their own inadequacies and how much I blame them for letting me down. Are there any parents who can make their children completely happy? Sometimes I think God is trying to test me, both now and in the future. I will have to become a good person on my own without anyone to serve as a model or advise me, but it will make me stronger in the end. Who else but me is ever going to read these letters? Who else but me can I turn to for comfort? I am frequently in need of consolation. I often feel weak, and more often than not, I fail to meet expectations. I know this, and every day I resolve to do better. And they are not consistent in their treatment of me. One day they say that Anne is a sensible girl and entitled to know everything, and the next that Anne is a silly goose who does not know a thing and yet imagines she had learned all she needs to know from books. I am no longer the baby and spoiled little darling whose every deed can be laughed at. I have my own ideas, plans and ideals, but am unable to articulate them yet. Oh well, so much comes into my head at night when I am alone, or during the day when I am obliged to put up with people and I can't abide, or who invariably misinterpret my intentions. That is why I always wind up coming back to my diary. I start there, I will keep going, that I will find my own way and choke back my tears. I only wish I could see some results, or just once receive encouragement from someone who loves me. Don't condemn me, but think of me as a person who sometimes reaches the bursting point. Jerzen. Monday, November 9, 1942. Dearest Kitty, yesterday was Peter's birthday, his 16th. I was upstairs by 8, and Peter and I looked at his presents. He received a game of Monopoly, a razor, and a cigarette lighter. Not that he smoked so much, not at all. It just looked so distinguished. The biggest surprise came from Mr. Vendon, who reported at one that the English had landed in Tunis, Algiers, and Casablanca and Oran. This is the beginning of the end, everyone was saying, but Churchill, the British Prime Minister, who must have heard the same same thing being repeated in England, declared, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning." Do you see the difference? However, there is reason for optimism. Stalingrad, and the Russian city that has been under attack for 3 months, still has not fallen into German hands. In the true spirit of the annex, I should talk to you about food. I should explain that they are real gluttons up to the top floor. Bread is delivered daily by a very nice baker, a friend of Mr. Clayman. Of course, we don't have as much as we did at home, but it is enough. We also purchase retain books, Russian books on the black market. The price keeps going up. It is already risen from 27 to 23 guilder, and that for mere sheets of printed paper. To provide ourselves with a source of nutrition that will keep, aside from the 100 cans of food we have stored here. We brought 300 pounds of beans, not just for us, but for the office staff as well. We had hung the snacks and the sacks of beans on hook in the hallway, just inside our secret entrance, but a few seams split under the weight. So we decided to move them to the attic, and Peter was interested with the heavy lifting. He managed to get 5 of the 6 sacks upstairs intact, and was busy in the last one when the sack broke and flooded. and a flood, or rather a hailstorm of brown beans, went flying through the air and went down to the stairs. And since there were about 50 pounds of beans in that sack, it made enough noise to raise the dead. Downstairs, they were sure the was falling down around their heads. And Peter was stunned, but then burst into peals of laughter when he saw me standing at the bottom of the stairs, like an island in a sea of brown, with waves of beans lapping at my ankles. We promptly began picking them up, and but beans are so small and slippery that they roll into every conceivable corner and hole. Now each time we go upstairs, we bend over and hunt around so we can present Mr. Wandon with a handful of beans. I almost forgot to mention that father has recovered from his illness. Yours then. P.S. The radio has just announced that Algiers has fallen. Morocco, Casablanca, and Oran have been in England in English hands for several days, and we are now waiting for Tunis. Please like and subscribe.